Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Good morning, Vietnam!
You are great.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious...
You're listening to the 30-something Movie Podcast. Classic movies, 30 years in the making. Yeah, you're listening to the 30-something Movie Podcast. This time around, I have got... Well, first, of course, I've got myself. Otherwise,
well,
I don't
one
know
would hope you do.
I would hope so. But for right now, it's me, John Reed, your host, with the illustrious... I feel like I called Pat illustrious last time. I need a different word for you. What adjective would you like applied to yourself? Apply it liberally.
Duh, I'm not an English teacher. I don't know.
Well, you speak English, though.
I do.
English, mother... Yeah. Do you speak
Movie podcast, family podcast.
I know. Bodacious. I'm going to go bodacious.
There you go.
Because then it fits with your name. And then
it does.
Okay, so Bo Warmbold.
Woo. Hello, everybody.
And then I believe, let's see, Patrick could not make it today. He's got some stuff going on with his kids, and Jeff was not able to make it either. I believe Dennis is coming, even though we don't have food.
That is the rumor.
He is wanting to make an appearance this time, so we will see him in a little bit. Patrick did say that he was going to be calling into the voicemail line and leaving some messages, so
I think his
feature that later.
His basic take is awesome, awesome, awesome.
Yes, I actually have that text message right here.
Yeah.
Awesome. Actually, there were 4 awesomes.
Oh, were there 4?
Yeah, there were 4 awesomes. Awesome, 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 awesome. I don't know if that's
2 per movie.
I know that's what I was going to say.
2
per movie or 4 for both, or we'll find out. We'll have to get him to clarify.
Exactly.
But, and he wanted to remind us not to forget the 3rd rule in a crisis.
Never.
So, 3rd rule. So we will, if you would like to call in to our voicemail line, our love line, as we affectionately call it, you can do that. It's 872-35-MOVIE, or if you are not of the generation that remembers that you can actually dial the letters on the keypad of a phone, because when I say keypad and phone together, you have no clue what I'm talking about, that would be 872-356-6843. So if you want to call in and leave us some feedback on the movies we're talking about, or just feedback on life in general, if you want to just call in and just ramble about some stuff, feel free. And we will, as long as it's appropriate and whatnot, we will play it on our show and respond to it if we can. But so I think we'll have Pat's going to call in and leave some of his thoughts. We'll play that towards the end of the podcast here. So this time around, we are going to be talking, this is our Big Twins episode. And I kind of feel like by titling this one Big Twins, we might get a whole lot more listeners than we typically do.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know
if... It might invite a new
clientele to the podcast. A new
class of listener, perhaps.
Okay. So, I mean, I think that's going to be unless we say something that sounds more profound or better, I think the title of this one's just probably going to be Big Twins.
I like it.
Okay.
That's good.
All right.
The 3rd rule of twins. I'm just saying. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I gotta be careful where we go with that.
Yeah, it's also true. You are not wrong.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right. So very, very quickly, I don't know that I have a whole lot of new movie news type stuff. You know what?
We do have we have one. We record this the week that A Wrinkle in Time opens.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The trailer for Christopher Robin dropped today.
Oh.
We've called an emergency meeting this weekend. I promised my wife and daughter I'd take them away this weekend, sir. We need to cut 20%. You promised these people good jobs. And I thought you'd do anything for this company. Well, have a good time.
What to do.
indeed. Who? Christopher Robin. I've cracked. Oh, I don't see any cracks. A few wrinkles, maybe.
Jeff and I had a conversation about this earlier today, and he saw it, and I had seen that the trailer had come out, had not had a chance to watch it yet. So he told me about it, then I watched it. Then he stepped into my office just almost right after I had watched it, and this was the extent of our conversation. The feels...
All the feels.
Mm-hmm. I told him I felt like my emotions won an Oscar because they're just sitting there going, "Get out!" Implying maybe that Get Out should have won more Oscars. I don't know. But,
maybe you are, maybe you aren't.
I don't know. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we might have a couple of new movie news things here. And do we want to talk about the Oscars at all? Did you watch them?
I haven't seen the whole thing yet.
Okay.
They're on the DVR. Everything I'm reading says the ratings were bad, but what I saw was solid.
Yeah, it was fine.
The montages were fun. It was a different way of doing things.
I do love a good montage.
You know, I think that was cool, seeing some of those. And it, unfortunately, for some of the older ones where you're like, oh, that was interesting. And I know it would have made the montage not as cool, but it might have been interesting to have the title of the movie on it in some cases.
Well, because sometimes with those montages, or when they do those like little clips and things like that, there are times where I kind of treat the Oscars, even if I'm not really very interested in the slate of movies, or if I haven't seen the slate of movies, sometimes I treat the Oscars as if I'm using the Goodreads app to like find more books to read.
Sure, yeah.
And
like,
with those
montages, I should go see that, but
right? And sometimes with those montages,
was.
I need them to put up the title of the movie because I see the montage and I know it's a famous scene from a movie, and I'm like, I need to watch that movie. I haven't seen that movie. I know that I should have, and I'm not 100% sure what it's called. Yeah. So sometimes I kind of need them to, that would be helpful to do that. I think there was somebody that got omitted from the in memoriam stuff too.
Oh.
I think they forgot Adam West.
Oh, dear Lord.
I don't remember seeing him. I just realized that. As I was going through my head, I was like, was there anybody... Because it always... When I saw stuff like Roger Moore, I was like, wait a minute. Did Roger Moore... I thought Roger Moore died in 2016. So then, like, I'm always... In my head, I'm always, like, running back and forth. And I'm like, okay, well, did that person actually die in 2017? Or... and I kind of feel like...
Yeah, it was June 2017.
Yeah. And now, granted, he's definitely more well-known for his TV stuff, but...
Adam West, Glenn Campbell, and others left out of Oscars in Memoriam from CNN.
Yeah. But yeah, I realized that as I was watching it. I was like, wait a minute.
DeLuise, Dorothy Malone, Powers Booth, and Robert Guillaume were also not seen in the trivia.
I don't remember seeing any of those. Yeah, but I realized that. I was like, I thought Adam West died this last year.
I would love to hear the explanation because, unfortunately... In 2017, it'd be pretty easy to go to the Googles. Mm-hmm. Celebrity Deaths 2017 and get a big old list.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, celebrity is a...
And I know you got to kind of decide who's going to go on the list because you
term.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, and you're not gonna put everybody up there.
You can't do every cameraman, but
right. But I'm thinking,
Powers Booth,
Adam West. John Gill.
Harry Dean Stanton. I mean, those are
names.
Those are names.
That should be there.
Yeah. Those are names that are known, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back around to... anything else you want to say about the Oscars?
No, I
mean, they were...
I haven't seen enough of them, really.
They were serviceable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were great, but...
But
does an award show have to be great? Like, isn't it just about...
I guess not.
The awards and,
It's always more interesting when you've seen more of the movies. Because I know there was one year that I worked in a movie theater, and Sharon, my wife, had seen, I think, every movie that was up for Best Picture. Because we'd get free tickets all the time.
Sure.
So she would, we didn't have any kids at that point, so I would get free tickets all the time. And she could just come in and watch movies whenever she wanted to. So if she didn't have anything to do for the library she was working at and didn't have any stuff to work on that night, she's like, oh, I'm going to come watch a movie while you're at work. And sometimes, she'd start a movie, and then as soon as I got done, I'd go down and finish watching the movie with her. And I think that year was the year that they had, like, it was Master and Commander, Mystic River.
Very nice.
So we saw all of those. I don't think I mean, except for bits and pieces working up in the projection booth, I don't think I saw all of Mystic River, but that was the year that, between the two of us, we had seen all of the Best Picture nominees.
I don't know that I can ever claim to have done that.
Yeah.
Because there's always one that's like, huh?
Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely more fun when that happens, but... so the Christopher Robin trailer, and I'll drop the audio of the Christopher Robin trailer in here so people can listen. Yeah, I mean, I like Ewan McGregor.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a fan. Pretty much anything he's in, I'll go see. I don't know what I expected the movie to be, and the fact that we see a walking, talking Winnie the Pooh. I think when I heard about this movie, I thought that it was just going to be the human side of things. That I didn't know that we were necessarily going to see those characters. But that's kind of an interesting mix, and even if it's just him hallucinating or imagining these characters, that's fine. But I think this could be a really fun family movie to go see.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I hope they are managing expectations well. I can't decide. I feel like there's some heavy stuff.
Yeah.
In it at the beginning.
Gonna be too heavy for kids?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to decide, is that heavy war stuff at the beginning...
But there are some other movies, like sometimes I feel like when I've watched Hook with the kids, and I feel like that may almost be kind of the same thing. It's like Peter Pan grown up. I mean, there's some kind of heavy stuff in the beginning of that movie, too.
Yeah.
So...
Sure.
Yeah. But it looks good. I mean, it definitely is something that take the kids to. And
don't get me wrong, in the way they're going to blend reality and fantasy, I think is going to be so much fun.
Did you see...
In the trailer, the scene that did it for me was when they, let's go play in the snow. And there's no snow on the ground, but then they pan the camera over, and sure enough, they're like...
There's snow.
The way they're doing that is going to be fun, I think.
The moment that Jeff and I both commented on was the first time he hears Winnie the Pooh's voice, and he kind of looks over, and you just see the top of his head over the edge of the bench that he's sitting on. And the fact that they got the same Winnie the Pooh actor to do the voice. Like, same one from all of those cartoons that we watched growing up as a kid. Yeah. Did you see the Mary Poppins Returns trailer?
I have not seen the trailer yet.
Okay.
I'm skeptical of that one.
Yeah.
Mary.
Poppins.
It is wonderful to see you.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
And that's what Sharon was kind of asking me. She's like, so wait a minute. So is this meant to be a remake, or is it a sequel, or is it... And
the title, it makes you think sequel.
The title makes me think sequel, and that's kind of at the very end of the trailer. She has a man and a woman that recognize her, and I think they say something like, "Oh, you're back." And Sharon didn't catch it at first, but my thought is those are the kids from the original movie, and that they've grown up.
Okay.
So I don't know that that's. I mean, they look like they were maybe about college. I only saw the trailer once, so I don't know. But
and I haven't
maybe
even
college
seen
age
with,
kids.
I haven't even seen it with sound on. I've seen in passing. So
yeah.
But that's interesting. It definitely is titling like a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they didn't title it like a sequel, and then it's not going to be. Again, I go with manage your expectations.
Right.
And sometimes I think these movies rush to the expectation of their audience, and they miss.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I was going to ask about, and this is not a movie thing, but it is an '80s thing. So, did you happen to see during the Oscars or after the fact the kind of the preview for Roseanne coming back?
I know, I haven't gotten to that yet. I am, talk about skeptical. Ooh, mama.
Uh-huh.
In the history of television, no family was quite like the Connors.
Are you ever sorry we got married?
Every second of my life.
Nothing has changed.
Dad!
Tuesday, March 27th.
I thought you were dead.
Why does everybody else think I'm dead?
The family that looks like us.
What are you doing with my pictures?
I'm getting rid of the ones where you guys were fat.
Those are the only ones where we look happy.
Lives like us.
Can I have some money? I don't know. Mom, can I have some money? I don't know. Can I have some money?
And laughs. Like no one else.
And go!
They're back.
I'm not afraid of you.
Give it time.
Roseanne, same cast, new episodes. Tuesday, March 27th on ABC.
Classics really do hold up.
I liked Roseanne.
We watched that show. Yeah, we watched that show nearly religiously back in the day. And whenever it'll come on reruns, I'll always throw it on for an episode or two. Yeah, I don't know. The last season or two, I mean, they really jumped the shark in the last season or two of the original show. And
they jumped the shark hard.
And I mean, they jumped the shark and they beat it to death. And then after it died, they brought it back to life, Frankenstein style. And I think it was a cast of. I think it was one of the cast members of the show. Beyond that point,
yeah,
it was a dead Frankenstein shark.
It's
when they got the money, when they won the lottery, and then Dan died. At that point, I was just kind of like, I don't care. But so I do like that if they're going to do this, I like that they brought back John Goodman. Because
Me too.
I would not want to see this show. I barely want to see the show now that it's coming back. I'm like, you know what? Let me just have my memories of when it was good. But the fact that they brought back John Goodman, I'm like, well, all right, I'll give you a few episodes.
Sure.
But
I just hope, I don't even know if I'm going to say this right. I just hope.
I'm more nervous about the Mad About You sequel that I heard about.
Yeah.
Because Sharon and I love that show so much. And
I'm concerned that both Beckys are there. Like, that doesn't really work for me intrinsically. I don't understand how they're going to make it work to my satisfaction. And let's be honest, that's what TV is there for, just satisfying amusement.
They could, now, hear me out here. This is 2018, so I'm going to go for it. They could have both Becky actresses there, and they're married to each other.
Oh, that's kind of awesome.
And then somebody makes the comment like, well, you know, the longer you are with your spouse, sometimes you start to look like each other.
Oh.
Can I write for the show?
Do you
think that would be?
You have thought about this on a level.
That was like in the last 10 seconds. I just thought
that is outstanding.
But should I write for the show? I mean, do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
Roseanne writers, if you're listening.
I think you just hit it right on the head.
I think that would be funny. If they wanted to just hit it on the nose, and maybe it's a little bit too on the nose, but if they wanted to like play that for a laugh.
See, and that works because I know Mark's not there.
Yeah.
So maybe she goes, yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, see, I like it.
See,
do you know something? Are you like?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
That is so good. It could be real.
Ask anyone, and I know very little.
Fair enough.
If it's not Googleable, I'm not sure that I know.
That is so good. It could be a thing.
So Roseanne writers, if you if you're looking to hire somebody who I don't know wouldn't mind a career change to make big money writing for TV shows, then forget Dennis Matuch and hire me.
Well, Dennis isn't here to defend himself.
Dennis is not here, and I don't think he's thrown his screenplays out there to anybody yet. So feel free to give me a call. All right, that might be it for new movie news. Is there anything else coming out that you've seen? They moved the Infinity War up a week.
Yeah. Okay. So never happens. Mm-hmm. Why? What's the deal?
I think I read somewhere, and I kind of started to think about this too. Deadpool is coming out, I think, like 2 weeks after the original release date. I want to say Deadpool is like the 13th, or maybe like a week or 2 weeks after the original release date for Infinity War. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of feeling like they said, hey, you know what? Infinity War is going to be big. Deadpool, we think, is also going to be big. Let's give Infinity War at least 3 weeks before something else comes out. I read that somewhere else on the internet, and I kind of thought, that does kind of make sense. That at this point, your first 3 weeks for a movie are probably going to be its biggest time in the box office. So they're probably giving it like that 3 week cushion to say, sure, let's do this. And then if Deadpool comes out and is really successful, then
I guess my only... Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's just not something you hear about very much.
No.
Usually
you do hear about, dates, right, you hear about dates shifting here and there, but usually it's not a movie this big, and I don't feel like it's usually a movie this big, this close to its release date.
Right, but I guess it's close enough where tickets hadn't actually gone on sale yet.
Right.
I don't know, it just seemed odd. It was one of those moments where I was like, huh.
Yeah.
So that actually happens?
Yeah. You know what I forgot to mention at the very beginning of this podcast? And I think either Pat or Jeff brought this up. We are now going to start listing Mark Hamill as an honorary co-host of the show.
Yeah, I had heard something about that.
He's retweeted 2 of my tweets now.
Yeah, you're somebody special.
So Mark and I are really good friends. And we are besties. And I will go over and mow his lawn anytime he needs me to. And that's not a euphemism. We use the lawn mowing thing as a kind of a running joke on the show here. We assume people listen to the podcasts while they're mowing their lawn or driving their car or whatever. So if Mark Hamill wants me to mow his lawn, drive his car, I will be Mark Hamill's gopher.
You will be his Gal Friday?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I would. I would dress up in a gopher costume and be his gopher. Which I kind of feel like he'd appreciate.
It's good to know that you have that sort of dedication.
I feel he'd appreciate that.
Oh, I would agree completely.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think that's it for new movie news, unless you got anything else.
Not, no.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about Twins. So first of all, I think I forgot to mention, we do spoil the movies that we talk about. So if you don't want to be spoiled, then just, you may want to go watch these movies and then come back later. But anyway, this time we're starting off with Twins. So Twins, the movie, came out the 9th of December, 1988, was rated PG with a runtime of 1 hour and 47 minutes, directed by Ivan Reitman, directed and produced by Ivan Reitman. Let's say it again. Ivan Reitman, who directed Stripes, Ghostbusters, and Kindergarten Cop, and produced Animal House and Ghostbusters. Written by several different people. A couple of William Davies, who did Stop or My Mom Will Shoot and How to Train Your Dragon. William Osborne, who did Stop or My Mom Will Shoot and The Scorpion King. Timothy Harris and Herschel Weingrod also did Trading Places and Space Jam. Cinematography, I'm apologizing right now for however this name is said. Andrzej Bartkowiak. I apologize. I knew I was going to get that one wrong. Did Falling Down and The Devil's Advocate. Music by Randy Edelman, who did The Chipmunk Adventure, Ghostbusters 2, Last of the Mohicans. Also in the music was George Delarue, who died in 1992, also did Platoon and The Day of the Dolphin. Budget was $18 million. Box office was $216.6 million. Starring Arnold Schwarzenegger as Julius Benedict, who did the Terminator movies, Predator, and Total Recall. Danny DeVito was Vincent Benedict, who did Batman Returns, War of the Roses, and the TV series Taxi. Kelly Preston, who was Marnie Mason. She was in Space Camp and Jerry Maguire. Chloe Webb was Linda Mason. She was in Sid and Nancy and Practical Magic. Bonnie Bartlett was Old Mary Ann Benedict, and she was in the TV series V and the TV series St. Elsewhere. Marshall Bell was Webster. He was in Total Recall, Stand By Me. Trey Wilson, who died in 1989, was Beetroot McKinley, who was in FX, Raising Arizona, and Bull Durham. David Caruso. played Al Greco. He was in CSI Miami and First Blood. Hugh O'Brien, who died in 2016, was Granger. He was in 10 Little Indians and The Shootist. Tony Jay, who died in 2006, was Werner. He was in Time Bandits, Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Lois and Clark. Heather Graham was young Mary Ann Benedict. She was in the TV series Twin Peaks, and Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. Critical reception for this one, Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 34%. Ebert, however, gave it a 3 stars. Audience rating on CinemaScore was an A-. It was a Golden Globe nominee for Best Original Song.
In a secret lab, somewhere in the Western Hemisphere, the perfect human specimen has been born. He has the strength of 10 men and the wisdom of 20. He also has a twin brother.
I have a brother?
Oh my goodness, are you looking good?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Born to be bad.
And Danny DeVito.
Way to go, Mom.
Are twins.
My name is Julius. I'm your twin brother.
Obviously. The moment I sat down, I thought I was looking into a mirror.
Only their mother can tell them apart. Twins, the new comedy from Ivan Reitman.
Julius. What? Are you allergic to something? You're all swelled up. You look like you're ready to explode. I love it when you hit people. Who are you?
Vincent's brother.
We're twins.
That's right.
Twins. Coming this Christmas.
And our second movie this time around is going to be Big. Big came out on June 3rd, 1988. Actually, ironically, the birthday of one of my siblings was June 3rd, 1988. So happy birthday, Brian. Rated PG-13. I'm sorry, rated PG, not PG-13, although you'd think it would be because they did drop an F-bomb. It was rated PG. It had a runtime of 1 hour and 44 minutes. Directed by Penny Marshall, who also did Jumpin' Jack Flash and A League of Their Own. Produced by James L. Brooks, who did The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Broadcast News, and The Simpsons, as well as Robert Greenhut, who did Annie Hall and The Purple Rose of Cairo. Writers for this one were Gary Ross, who did Pleasantville and The Hunger Games, Anne Spielberg, who was the sister of Steven Spielberg, who also did, I think, at least one episode of Amazing Stories. Cinematography was done by Barry Sonnenfeld, who also did Raising Arizona and When Harry Met Sally. Music by Howard Shore, who did The Fly and Lord of the Rings. Budget for this one was $18 million. Box office was $151.7 million. Starring Tom Hanks, who played Josh Baskin. He was in Dragnet, Saving Private Ryan, and Forrest Gump. Elizabeth Perkins, who played Susan. She was in About Last Night, The Flintstones, and the TV series Weeds. Robert Loggia died in 2015. He played Macmillan. He was in Scarface and Independence Day. John Hurd, who died in 2017, just this last year, played Paul. He was in Home Alone and The Pelican Brief. Jared Rushton played Billy. He was in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and Overboard. David Moscow played young Josh. He was in Newsies and Just Married. John Lovitz was Scotty Brennan. He was in Saturday Night Live and A League of Their Own. Mercedes Ruehl played Mrs. Baskin. She was in The Fisher King and Married to the Mob. Josh Clark played Mr. Baskin. He was in Star Trek Voyager and McFarlane USA. Critical reception on this one, New York Times' Janet Maslin said, quote, Big features believable young teenage mannerisms from the two real boys in its cast, and this only makes Mr. Hanks's funny, flawless impression that much more adorable. This really is the performance to beat. Just gave it an 80%. 97% from Rotten Tomatoes. The audience rating is an 82% from Rotten Tomatoes and an A from CinemaScore. For awards, this one was nominated for Best Actor and Best Writing for the Oscars. Golden Globe, it won for Best Actor in a Comedy.
For Josh Baskin, life was a little unfair.
Told you to take out the garbage. Mr. Bus. Can I tell you again, Josh? Baskin. Josh!
Until he made a little wish.
I wish I were big.
Sweetheart, it's 7:30. Are you up? Josh!
20th Century Fox presents Tom Hanks. Big.
I turned into a grown-up, Mom. I made this wish on a machine, and it turned me into a grown-up.
Now what?
You get a job.
Cannot get a job. I play with all of this stuff, and then I tell them what I think.
And they pay you for that? Suckers!
Vice President? He's only been here a week.
See that girl over there in the red? She'll wrap her legs around you so tight you'll be begging for mercy.
Well, I'll stay away from her then.
I loved your ideas on the squeezy doll line.
Thanks.
What were you like when you were younger?
Oh, well, I wasn't much different.
Eject your seat!
Who are you? I'm his girlfriend. I want to spend the night with you.
Do you mean sleep over?
Yeah.
Okay. But I get to be on top.
What is so special about Baskin?
He's a grown-up.
How do I feel about what?
How do you feel about me?
You're only young once.
This is important!
I'm your best friend. What's more important than that, huh?
But for Josh,
I miss my family, Susan, and I want to go home.
Oh my God, you're married.
it just might last a lifetime. You'll never forget Tom Hanks.
It's beluga.
In Big.
The Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito, and Hulk Hogan, apparently in different interviews, they were talking about Schwarzenegger and DeVito were given the option of doing this movie or Suburban Commando, which came out in 1991. And had the two of them chosen Suburban Commando, then Hulk Hogan and Christopher Lloyd would have done Twins.
Let's do it. Let's do it now. Let's switch them up and let's see what happens.
I think it would be fun.
I think that's awesome.
I think it would be hilarious. The other one that I think is also hilarious that you and I both commented on was Arnold Schwarzenegger has always wanted to do a sequel to this called Triplets with Danny DeVito and Eddie Murphy as the third long-lost brother.
Which we should still do.
Which I think would be outstanding.
That would be great, especially now that they're all really old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I mean,
you can work in the old man comedy. Which,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And I made the comment earlier, had they done this back in the day, I said that I would have loved it had they come up with doing a flashback to see, because there were the 6 fathers, and if they had done a flashback and like the 7th father, steps in from the side or something like that, and it happens to be like Richard Pryor or Garrett Morris or somebody like that.
Which is everything that's right with the world.
Right,
really.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they had done Triplets, that would have been a great way to do it. And, the last thing I got here, and I noticed this watching the movie too, when they, at the very first time that they pass each other and they are outside the Grauman's Chinese Theater, did you notice what movie was on the marquee?
Oh God, I did. Dang it.
It was great.
Yes.
Willow.
I totally did, and I chuckled. I was like, oh, John's going to catch that.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. So yeah, Twins actually came out in December of 1988, and Willow came out, I think, late May of 1988, so it would have been about the right time to do that if they were filming in that time. So let's run through a real quick rundown of the plot here, and feel free to stop with commentary as we run through the plot of this one.
Never not felt free to comment on your plots.
Feel free. So Julius and Vincent Benedict are fraternal twins, obviously not identical.
Thought I was looking into a mirror.
All right. As the result of these secret experiments that are done to produce like a super soldier, if you will.
Am I allowed to break the timeline in these comments, or should I save my comments?
No, break the timeline. Go for it.
So, he makes a comment at the end about how they closed up this lab the day after they were born.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a long time. There's no dust. There's nothing. Like, they opened the lab door.
I mean, it was completely sealed.
Completely.
What do you call that? Is that hermetically sealed?
Hermetically sealed, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, the day after, like, true government, man, there was money in that. Like, they should have had to... I don't know.
I feel like Germans were in charge of this experiment.
Maybe an extra year.
Germans
I don't know.
Germans are very efficient.
It's too efficient. That's my point. I think the day after they were born.
I feel like Germans.
And just because there was a second child,
seal it, Schnell.
The experiment was a.
I don't know German, so I apologize if I just swore.
No, you're close enough to read. No, you're good enough.
Entire German That's Hurry, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Or, something like that.
Yeah.
But, like, because there was a second child that wasn't perfect, but it's not
Shut
like
it down.
the second child died.
No,
like,
shut
it's
it down.
right here.
No,
Like,
shut it down. It's a failure.
What I mean, poor Danny DeVito, like...
It's to cement that he's unwanted.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, oh, we got our perfect human, but then we also got this thing.
This guy.
Seal the door.
Yeah, the doctor was very harsh.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
And bad porn stash doctor, by the way.
Yeah.
Who didn't seem to age much from that picture.
No.
Like, they might have maybe done a little more work on him.
He might have, they might have...
The one father who was all, like, grandfathery but ripped...
Uh-huh.
Like him, they aged.
Which, I look forward to being that way someday.
Oh, please.
Grandfathery but ripped.
Please, if I look that good when I'm that old.
Shredded. Is that what the kids are saying now? Shredded?
I think it is, and I can't. I can't.
I saw Kylo Ren take his shirt off in the shower the other day. Somebody said he had an 8-pack. Said he's shredded. Matt, the radar technician.
John, you're so extra.
I know. So they are part of this experiment, which apparently the doors were sealed the day after they were born. Hermetically sealed.
Hermetically sealed. Because, and, okay, so the lab room was the delivery room. Because you walk in and the first shot you see is, hello, stirrups. I mean, that machine is front and center.
And I need somebody to quit referring to it as the milkshake. Okay.
That was. The doctor was a little offended too.
Yeah.
We weren't making milkshakes here.
Yeah. I need some different terminology there.
Yeah, Vincent is a little more crass than you might think.
Yeah,
is that because you're gonna go get a Shamrock Shake later and it's not gonna work for you?
No, I may never drink a milkshake ever again. Yeah.
Daddy, why don't you like milkshakes, twins?
You used to like them.
Twins.
Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito.
It's Danny DeVito's fault.
His
Who's
fault.
Danny DeVito?
You'll learn
it's
someday.
It's his fault. You'll learn. That and when he played the Penguin in Batman Returns. Okay. So apparently while the experiment is a success, they treat it like a failure, and they hermetically seal the room, and they send Julius off to the desert island or not really a desert island, but an island paradise where he can learn and become the perfect human being.
So there's another one. The experiment is such a failure. Why not send them both to the orphanage? Like, come on.
Granted, yes.
Come on.
I know. You're applying logic.
I am.
I feel like that's the fourth rule of a crisis situation is don't apply logic to this experiment.
Yes.
So
you are correct.
You're forgetting the fourth rule of the crisis situation. That's not even a good Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It was a better attempt than mine.
I used to be much better at doing an Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation. Get to the chopper. Do it now! Now! Okay.
That's better.
Yeah. So, and their mother, Marianne Benedict, is played by Heather Graham.
Yes.
In this, and I totally did not remember
and
that.
uncredited Heather Graham in that
Uncredited.
picture.
This might have been one of the first things.
Is that a union thing? Because she doesn't have a scene. She's just in the pic. Well,
maybe.
She did have a scene, though, but she doesn't have any words. I wonder why she's...
Yeah, I don't know.
Because you see that once in a while,
Yeah.
uncredited. How does that even happen?
Yeah.
Like, your agent
If you, for
not
some reason,
good
if you
enough?
don't want to... And I can't imagine a young Heather Graham saying something like, I don't want to be credited in this movie.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like if you're a young actor or actress,
Put my name
on everything. Put my name on everything. Side of a cereal box. I don't care.
Right.
Put my name on
I've never quite
Richard Gere's socks. Put my name on his socks. I don't care. Just get my name out there.
Never quite understand the uncredited stuff.
Now I get like the one, and I'm blanking out on who it was, did the voice for Jessica Rabbit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my. This is what happens when we record after working.
And we're old. Let's just remember that. Yes, though.
But yes,
there are some...
and that she just kind of did as a favor.
Right.
That I could see. But like, I don't want my name on this. Just I'll do it for you because I'm a friend and blah. That I can see. But if you're a young actor or actress, I don't know what.
And if
anybody knows why people leave themselves uncredited, or if it's a union thing or what, feel free to call in and let us know, or email in and let us know, because that. I've kind of always had that question too.
And if she was just in that picture, it would make sense. But I forgot that opening scene. There is actual video. There is actual moving pictures of her.
She didn't say anything, but
No, because I don't know if anyone. But well, yeah.
right. Maybe it sometimes has to do with with a speaking role as well.
Yeah, but there's plenty of but maybe yeah.
Because I know you get paid differently when you get a speaking role.
It's true. It's true.
So. So anyway, on Julius's, I believe it's his 35th birthday, Werner, because is he German? He was German.
Yeah.
Yeah. Werner finally tells Julius about Vincent. No, okay, I'm going to stop doing that. We're not doing that the rest of the podcast.
Oh, please do.
I did. March 2nd was Texas Independence Day.
And that's why you put the flag up on.
Yes, that's why I put the flag up on FaceTubes and the my space book. And I tried to convince my children that it was Talk Like a Texan Day.
Oh, that had to be priceless.
I really wanted Nora to go to school and talk like a Texan all day, but yeah. So
I bet your wife wasn't.
Yeah.
All that pleased with you.
Yeah. She would. Nora wouldn't do it. She's like, she tried to do a Texas accent for a second, and she's like, it ended up sounding more Russian.
Oh,
and I don't know how that worked. But
that's not good.
She was doing a like a little secret high five that she and one of her friends do, like this little, and it goes like double this double that, and I said, do that in a Texas accent. She's like, double this, and I'm like, no. That's like
Niet.
No, you niet.
That is going to get you investigated by Robert Mueller. And if you don't know what that means, good.
Yeah, that's there's been some tampering going on with your accent there, my friend.
Have you been to a voting booth lately?
So that's like twins.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah. So he finds out that he has a twin brother. So he decides that he's going to go track him down, and he feels that he's in trouble. They have this kind of twin sixth sense
that he's never felt before.
He's never felt before,
years.
But now that he knows he has a twin, maybe he just always thought it was indigestion. And now,
if I was twins with Danny DeVito, one of us would certainly be feeling indigestion most of the time. Yes.
Apparently, after I hit 30, I have twins everywhere.
Yeah.
Because on taco night, I have twins everywhere.
Yeah. And the next day.
And this. But anyway, that's like twins.
Yeah.
So Julius does show up in L.A. and, finally tracks him down and that he's in jail for his unpaid parking tickets. Bails him out. Obviously, Vincent does not believe the story that this is his twin because...
Just like looking in a mirror.
Just like looking in the mirror. And so then they have a run-in with the Klain brothers, the names.
Yeah.
Not the brightest bulbs in the box, but...
No, but God, are they fun villains for these two.
And so they do... They do find out that they do believe, or they find out that their mother is still alive, and obviously Vincent is not happy about that because then he believes that she abandoned him at birth, and then that he doesn't really have any interest in going to find her if she didn't want him in the first place. And so then they, through a series of events, Vincent has also been stealing cars and selling them to try to pay back the debts that he owes to the Klain brothers. And one of the cars that he steals happens to have an experimental jet engine in the trunk. And this is a car that was stolen that was meant to be delivered to we want to call him a courier or a... bounty, not really a bounty hunter.
No, a courier's a good...
A courier with a silencer on his gun.
A transporter, if you will.
Yes, a transporter. Mm-hmm. And so he stole the wrong car, and that is not going to work well for Vincent. So now he's got somebody else on his trail, played by... was his name Quado in Total Recall?
Oh,
was that Quado?
This is where I get to admit my ignorance. I never...
Mr. Webster. He goes by the name Mr.
I
Webster.
never saw Total Recall.
You never saw Total Recall?
No.
Talk about triplets.
I know. I knew that's what you were going to say, too. Because I know just enough about it to know that it's one of those movies I probably should have seen and haven't. But he's a total... The actor is a total that guy. I mean, he's been in...
That movie made me think of Aliens in a different way.
Well, yes, it would.
I just want to say I want to believe
that might exist.
We'll leave it like that.
You are correct.
Was it Quado?
Quato.
Yeah, Quado.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
but he's a total that guy. I mean, he's been in so many things. Marshall Bell,
like shady shady-looking dude.
Yeah, and he's always playing a shady-looking dude, too. Like, he's always doing something wrong.
Well, if you're shady-looking, I guess you're going to play a shady-looking dude.
Shifty, MFer, you know what I mean?
So they end up on their way to... he's going to go to Houston because he's going to take this card to...
because he's called the guy with the best, worst character name ever.
Beetroot McKinley.
So when you're sitting around and you're William Davis, William Osborne, Timothy Harris, and Herschel Weingrod.
Sure.
Yeah. When you're the writers, who and how do you come up with Beetroot
McKinley?
I would almost have better luck coming up with William Beetroot or something. Beetroot
McKinley.
Someone must know someone named Beetroot
McKinley.
Because where would you even come up with that?
I don't know.
It's a family name.
Well, I feel like
he's very Texas. So I actually wanted to ask you.
I feel like Trey Wilson.
Have you ever met any beetroots in your Texas life?
I guarantee there was something close.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, I've never come across anybody whose name is Beetroot.
But
that's a total Southern name.
Well, yeah, because
ridiculously Southern name. So I believe it.
Just Googling Beetroot to see what comes up.
There you go. But Trey Wilson, I mean, Nathan Arizona, in Raising Arizona, so he's always got, like, fun names. And
so maybe that's a good point. Maybe he had something to do with
eccentric Southern parts. And
God, it was just every time. And, and then he says, Mr. Beetroot.
Mr. Beetroot McKinley.
That's his first name.
Beetroot McKinley.
Beetroot.
So they
Best
all...
worst name ever.
Oh, I know. So they all pile into a car, along with the sisters. That pile into the car with them.
Played by the lovely and talented Kelly Preston, who I had forgotten how much of a crush I once had on her. Yeah.
Yes. So, so we have Marnie and Linda are tagging along on this little trip here. And they end up going in the car with them, and they decide that Julius is very excited because New Mexico is on the way to Texas. So they're going to stop off in New Mexico at this artist's commune where he believes he's going to find his mother alive. And they get there, and they try to get in, and at first they're not allowed in, so they jump over the wall, and they run into somebody who kind of acts as if they're in charge of this place, and they kind of say, they kind of reveal that, well, no, your mother died a while ago. And obviously she doesn't believe them. She thinks they're real estate developers and they're trying to take her land from her. And so she doesn't believe their story. But then it gets revealed that is their mother. That's Mary Ann Benedict. And so they continue on to, they kind of continue on. Vincent is not very happy, so he kind of kicks everybody's stuff out of the car, and he heads on to Houston by himself to deliver this engine to Beetroot.
Beetroot.
I just want to say Beetroot as much as I possibly can.
Well, exactly. Were we out recording this, we might be able to make a drinking game of Beetroot. So I would encourage anyone listening to this podcast, Beetroot.
If you want to go back a few minutes.
Yeah, and start over.
Feel free to start the Beetroot McKinley drinking game.
I think Beetroot would approve.
I think he would approve. Yeah. Beetroot, would you... These people are going to be dead by the time we get... They're not even going to get to Big. By the time we get to Big, by the time we're talking about Big, they're like...
Well, the real question
I love it. He's like one of the last guys that made it out alive in Star Wars. He's great. He got a whole movie all to himself. No, that's Big.
That's Big. Yeah.
Whatever.
The real question is what would Beetroot drink? I mean, as a true Texan in the aerospace industry, what would Beetroot's drink of choice be?
Well, I think he's a wealthier guy, so I feel like he's going to go with some scotch or
that's
something
what I'm
like
thinking.
That. If it was a little bit on the lower end, then I'd say a nice Lone Star beer, maybe.
I'm wondering, can you get? This is the '80s. Could you get good tequila from Mexico in the '80s down there? Because I'm wondering.
Maybe.
I'm thinking he could be like a bootleg tequila kind of guy.
I was 8 and living in Texas at the time, so I wasn't stocking up on the Mexican tequila. But
you never know. Those 8-year-olds
nowadays,
they grow
I don't know.
Up fast.
Make a little. There was a singer that my dad really liked called Jerry Jeff Walker.
You have introduced me to him.
Mentioned him before,
yes.
and he has a song where he talks about like, I forget which song it is, but there's a line in the song where he says something like, going across the border for some cultural exchange.
I like it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yes.
Across the border for a little cultural exchange there.
Most deaf.
So, the one person we didn't mention who does show up earlier in the movie as the attendant at the parking garage, David Caruso.
Yes. Everyone's favorite detective. John and I have recently put our sunglasses on and taken them off in a exaggerated manner to celebrate
David Caruso
the David Caruso-ness of it all. Because we can.
And speaking of human exaggeration... Hi, Dennis.
Hey, guys.
Quite the intro.
Well, I called you bodacious. I needed to come up with something creative for him. So
There you go.
you are the human exaggeration.
There you go. I'll take that.
That'd be a good superhero name too, or super villain name, or.
But it would. But as you said earlier, it might lead to interesting questions.
That's true. Have you? So we'll ask you the same question. Have you ever met somebody named Beetroot?
No.
No.
We're discussing it might be the best worst name ever.
Beetroot McKinley. Beetroot McKinley. Other follow-up question: how do you feel about Kelly Preston?
I like Kelly Preston.
Okay, just we're checking. We're making
Who
sure.
doesn't?
Right. I was saying that I had forgotten about my crush on Kelly Preston until she showed up on the screen with those legs.
Yeah.
I mean,
with that mind.
Yes.
Twins. So he does end up getting the car down to Houston, and he's going to make the trade for this. And I, like you mentioned earlier, I do love the exchange when he feels like he's trying to get more money out of him earlier in the movie.
Yeah, he's like, wait a minute.
Like, no less than like 15.
15.
He's like, son, if you think you can do better than $5 million, million. No, I think I'll find a way to live with your offer, sir. So he does get the prototype down to Houston, and then you get the shady guy, Mr. Webster, then comes in, then kills poor Beetroot and whatever Beetroot's assistant's name was, and then tries to kill Vincent as well. And Julius shows up because he can feel his twin brother in trouble. It's that indigestion where he can feel his brother in trouble. And so they end up, he ends up hitting him with the third rule in a crisis situation, which apparently is drop chains on somebody's head. Duck. And they go to, then you kind of find out that they are then going to return the engine, much to the chagrin of Vincent, who they end up getting was it a $50,000 reward for returning it? And then the other part of that too is they get their picture in the paper, so then their mother sees it and then believes their story that they are twins and that they are her children.
Being a true shyster, Vincent happens to figure out how to hide $1 million for himself.
Yeah, really proud that I gave back that $4 million.
$4 million.
Just say it with me. $4 million.
The other millions.
I'm very proud of you. Very proud of you, Vincent.
The other millions for the third brother, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Had you heard that one before? That they were talking about back in the day. They were talking about doing a sequel called Triplets with Eddie Murphy as the third brother.
Right.
No, really? Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Come on.
To which I told Bo, I was like, then what they needed to do was do a flashback where you had the 6 white fathers, and all of a sudden, like Richard Pryor walks in.
Yeah, that would have been good.
So I
would have get scraped for
totally
it.
when they were talking about doing it was around the time that he was running for governor, and he was like, I don't have time to do this right now. So, yeah, I would have watched it.
I still think it'd be funny to do now.
If they did it today.
Because you could roll in old man humor on top of it, and that seems to do well these days.
The old man racist humor? Is that what we're...
Well, there is that problem, but, I'm sure you can work that out.
I mean, I kind of feel like as an old man, Vincent's going to say some things that would not be necessarily appropriate.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
But that's when Eddie shows up. Like, I don't know. Maybe you can make that funny somehow.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, and then we end the movie as all good 80s movies do, is we end the movie with the twins having had twins and pushing the baby carriages down the park, and everybody gets their picture taken together, and everybody's happy. And
yeah, and in that soft focus with the music playing over it, like every 80s movie ends that way.
Family movie, comedy type thing.
Yeah. 3 Minute a Baby ended that way. The one where Arnold gets pregnant ends that way.
Junior. Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah.
Which I had forgotten that Danny DeVito was in that too.
Oh yeah.
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 The two of them, I would love to know what their relationship is like off camera. Because they're hysterical together on screen. And it's one of those things like...
A lot of piggyback rides.
Otherwise they'd get nowhere fast.
And they take turns.
There's an image for you. It would take Danny DeVito, Rhea Perlman, and their children to carry Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I'd imagine they get along pretty well.
They're just so funny. Like,
lift with your knees.
And maybe it's the contrast of, height.
Well, I think I think there's a play out between the two.
It's so awesome. And I knew I liked the movie, but it's one of those you sit back down and you get like 10 minutes in and you're like, right on, okay.
And that's one I didn't get to see again the second day. So I've only seen it back then.
Oh, okay.
And I remember liking it back then, but
yeah,
I don't know. I just didn't get around to seeing it. Curious to see how much that'll kick back in.
It didn't take long for me. I was like, okay, I do like this movie. I forgot. It's the little things, as an adult, you pick up the one-liners more. Just like looking in a mirror. Like, just that dry Danny DeVito wit is just outstanding. And I think I appreciate that more as an adult. I think as a kid, I
noticed Kelly Preston more.
Well, yes, I did. I think I appreciated Arnold more when I was younger because it was more the naive jokes, the naivete, which was funny. I think I appreciate Danny DeVito more as an adult because it's the dry, biting humor that I gravitate towards more now that I'm a cranky old man, for lack of a better way to say it.
I will say probably one of my favorite lines, and I mentioned this earlier, one of my favorite lines, it actually sounds like it could have come out of The Room, was I did nothing, the pavement was his enemy.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm so sorry when he's like apologizing to the guy, even though they tried to steal his bag.
The pavement was his enemy.
The pavement was his enemy. Thank you for the cookies. I look forward to tossing them. What was the other one? There was the other one that I felt like, as a teacher, I should have used this at some point. What was it? You have no respect for logic. I feel like as a teacher, that needs to be like printed on a teacher T-shirt.
Yes.
Like, and I have no respect for no one who has no respect for logic. But he's got an axe.
He's got an axe. That's right. Jeff would use that for you. He'd use that every day.
All right. Well, do we have anything else we want to say about Twins before we move on to...
No, now
move on to Big?
Now I'm making it on the list to go see it.
Now you want to go see it?
I mean, I've seen it, but like I said, see it again. Now.
Fun. See it if you haven't. See it again if it's been a while.
I want to know why is the...
Beetroot.
Beetroot. We decided that's a drinking game.
He was the...
Trey Wilson.
Yeah. He was the guy who they were
Nathan Arizona.
Got it.
We decided that saying the name Beetroot was going to be a drinking game for anybody listening to the podcast. So every time we say it, our listeners have to take a drink.
So Beetroot. And if you haven't fallen over yet...
I'm going to, just at the very end of the podcast, I'm just going to have a loop of us saying Beetroot over and over and over again.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just in case they got to the end and still weren't toast.
Kind of feel like this is the, similar to the State of the Union drinking game.
Oh.
That, especially this year, would not have gone over well.
No.
Yeah.
Caruso was nobody at that point, right?
Did you say
Caruso?
David Caruso?
Yeah.
And he's like totally not his characters from
he in there?
anything else. How old? Oh, God, I mean, pretty.
Well, he was born in 56, so...
31.
So he's about 31, okay.
Yeah. No, he didn't even have sunglasses in this movie.
I know!
That's why I didn't recognize him.
Put them on, take them on.
I was waiting for him.
When the show became big, that was...
The CSI Miami. Well, he was in NYPD Blue.
This was 88, so...
When did NYPD Blue start?
Well, he was in... And remember, before that, he was in Hill Street Blues.
Yeah.
But NYPD Blue, or... That was the big one. That was the one.
NYPD Blue was early 90s, 93, 94.
Yeah. And then CSI Miami was, what, like late 90s? Mid to late 90s?
CSI Miami
when it became whatever the heartthrob type of thing.
Was 2002.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that was earlier than that.
No, it was just...
No, I guess not.
He took a break and he was and then not took a break. But
Well, and he had
he
some
tried a movie career and some flops, and then
he had some failed TV shows too. Michael Hayes he was a vehicle for him, and then I mean he was in the 1991 Hudson Hawk.
Okay.
You know, he did a bunch of stuff. He was King of New York in 1990, like movies I've never heard of. This was kind of smack in the middle of his career, but it was before he did anything. Before he had done anything I had heard of, except for Hill Street Blues. He did Hill Street Blues, then he did this, and after that, it sort of seems to have taken off.
You said King of New York. Do you know who had the potential to be the King of Houston?
Beetroot McKinley, of course.
Yeah.
With a name like Beetroot, you're going to get all the votes because if you don't know who you're electing when you walk into a booth and you see a name like Beetroot, for one guy you're going to remember.
They're going to be like Beetroot. I'm voting for that guy.
Right?
All right. Well, that's Twins. We're going to shift gears and we're going to move on into talking about Big, which is the whole reason that Dennis is here because we didn't have any food. I mean, you brought your own food.
I brought my own food.
That Tom Hanks guy is pretty good.
Well, and it was fun to have. We had just watched it the other night, and then as part of one of their montages, they had the piano scene in the Oscars.
Because
which I kind of feel like that shows up in every movie montage.
Because it is one of the best scenes ever.
Yeah.
Like, just the whole thing. The fact that it's two guys playing a piano, a life-size piano, is... And then who it is. You know, they're just... It's so fun. And it's so subtle, too. He just looks at him. Piano lessons? Me too.
Every day after school.
Every day, yeah. It was just...
Which, for one of us, was last week.
Right.
So, real quick, a couple of background things for Big. According to Robert... How do you say his name? Is it Loggia? Loggia?
Isn't it Loggia?
Loggia?
I would say Logia, but it doesn't mean it's right. I'm really bad at that
It
stuff.
might be
Logia.
It might be Logia.
Robert Logia. I'm going to say Robert Logia.
It might be Robert Logia.
Okay, I'm going to go with
It
Robert
certainly
I already
Logia.
said Logia myself, but it should
It certainly sounds more refined to say Logia.
He's dead, so
He did.
I don't feel like he's going to correct us.
No.
If he wants to correct us, he can call into the voicemail line and do that. That's totally fine. But according to Robert Logia, Beetroot. I think Beetroot was his middle name. On the day they filmed the famous keyboard scene at FAO Schwartz, he and Tom Hanks noticed that doubles dressed exactly like them were on hand just in case the two could not do the dance moves correctly. So it became their goal to do the entire keyboard number without the aid of the doubles, and they did succeed. They did not use doubles for that scene.
That's cool.
Tom Hanks was the first choice to play Josh Baskin, but was unavailable due to scheduling conflicts with the film's Dragnet and Punchline. So Robert De Niro was then offered the lead role and was rejected because his salary that he demanded was too high. He demanded $6 million for this movie. And I don't know that I would have pictured Robert De Niro play Josh Baskin in this movie.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a whole...
That's a very different movie. Big. The movie's Big.
Yeah, it's a different movie. There's no two ways about it. That is a different movie.
That him looking at himself in the mirror when he first gets big, like that takes on a whole Are you looking at me? Are you looking? I'm looking at me.
I'm on top.
I'm on top.
I get to be on top. Yeah, I feel like that's
weird that
that would be a little strange.
They weren't even close to age though.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It's a big difference, Tom.
Yeah. So that would have been different.
Yeah,
it may be a flop.
A bit different. Well, yeah. This was also part of a late 80s mini-cycle of age swap or body swap movies. Some of the others were, obviously, this one, Big, from 1988. There was another one from 88 called 18 Again. Another one from 88 called Vice Versa. Another one from 88 called 14 Going on 30. One from 89 called Dream a Little Dream.
Robert De Niro was in it.
Maybe that was the one that he put him in. Was that the one that got remade into 13 Going on 30?
There you go. One of the few movies during the PG-13 era that contains the F word. That's not a...
Yeah, I noticed that
movie.
because I was going to be like, you know what, I remember seeing this as a kid, but I probably saw one we recorded off of TV. In fact, I guarantee it was one we recorded off of TV. And so I'm sitting there thinking, you know what, this would be a cute movie for the kids to watch. And I'm thinking, I don't remember anything. I mean, there were like some of the
bras,
almost love scenes.
underwear.
Yeah. There's that stuff, but I'm like, you know what? Like they haven't seen that in other plays, in a couple other movies here and there. So, not a huge deal. So, but then I went on.
The kid that says it, his friend.
I think so. Yeah,
his friend, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, of course, he's the New York ruffian,
right,
of the movie.
He's mad at him towards the end.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And but I went on to like Common Sense Media, and I'm like, well, let me just double check real quick to see if there's anything. And then it mentioned on there that like it uses the F word, and I'm like, really? But I think it was like a copy that we had recorded off of TV somewhere, and that's why it didn't have some of the language in it. But so we didn't watch it with the kids. But yeah, I was kind of surprised at that you know, still in the time when there is a PG-13 that exists, that was able to get through there. All right, so that's all I got on the background part of things.
Steve Guttenberg also considered for Josh Baskin. Totally different movie again.
That would have been very different.
But similar.
Better than, well, probably
possible.
More similar than Robert De Niro.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, come on, this is just a joke, right?
Which?
Apparently Albert Brooks also turned down the role of Josh Baskin.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that...
I mean...
No, okay, now this is...
maybe, but...
Nah, you're kidding.
Al Pacino turned down the role of Josh Baskin.
Just as bad.
Really?
Gary Busey auditioned for the role. Ironically, Busey played another character named Joshua in Lethal Weapon.
Okay.
David Caruso.
Right? Like, take off your sunglasses, everyone.
Sean Connery. Sean Connery.
All good.
I've gotten big and Scottish. Mom, it's me.
Did anyone see...
I kind of went from Sean Connery into like Saturday Night Live Sean Connery.
Yeah, well, as you should have. Did anyone see, I think it was the first season Colbert took over the Late Show? Tom Hanks has been on there tons. They did a little parody with the Zoltar machine and the whole thing.
I remember seeing that at one point.
That was good funny. There's a whole Tom Hanks, Tim Allen shtick. It was pretty good.
So, a real quick kind of rundown of the plot of the movie. And again, feel free to just jump in and interrupt with commentary as you do. So we got 12-year-old. We'll come back to the idea of exactly how old he is, because that, upon viewing it this time, that kind of bothered my wife and I as to how old he was and certain things that happened to him over the course of this movie, given how old he actually is, his character is supposed to be, and then things that happen. Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
It actually bothered us a little bit this time around.
Really?
Watching this as a kid, it didn't bother me, but yeah. So anyway, obviously
Nothing.
Did you call me old?
Yes. What?
Like Sean Connery old.
Hey now.
You know what? Beetroot. Beetroot.
And I'll beetroot you. No, I won't.
I'd prefer... God, how much are you going to make me edit? First it was the comment about 14, and then it was the...
You're the one who had a
I'm not
problem
editing.
with the
I'm
movie.
not editing anything.
All right,
this whole thing, it's all going in.
Okay.
Just be ready for it. So they go to a carnival, and he's going to ride one of the rides, and kind of bumps into this girl that he likes there, and
But her boyfriend drives.
And her boyfriend drives, and he's a little bit taller, and obviously when he tries to get on the ride, obviously he's not quite tall enough, but he could go ride some of the kiddie rides. So then he makes his way over to the Zoltar machine, makes his wish to be big, realizes that the machine was not plugged in, at which point I guess you just go on with life as if it's all normal. Which then, like, that ties into, like, later on this month when we talk about Chucky and how there's no batteries in it. That, I feel like, should just freak you out right away if something's not plugged in and magically it's working, but that's fine.
Wireless power.
Right. So, next morning he wakes up and he's been transformed into 30-year-old Josh Baskin, which I still think is one of the funniest ways to reveal that, is him, like, climbing out of the bed and just seeing his legs, and then when he jumps down, kind of makes his way to the bathroom, and then sees himself in the mirror. Comes downstairs. Obviously, his mother thinks that her son has been kidnapped and wonders who this strange adult man is that's in his house. And so he ends up running out of the house and goes to find his friend because he's kind of scared, doesn't know what to do. So they run into the city to kind of track down the Zoltar machine and find it so that they can wish himself back to being a kid. Realizes that he's got 6 weeks until the paperwork goes through to be able to find the list of the carnivals where this thing is going to be. And in the meantime, he realizes he's going to need to get a job so that he can pay the rent at his trashy little hotel that he's staying at. And ends up going to work at a toy company in computers. And that was like the easiest job interview ever.
How about it?
I mean, if that's how job interviews went in the 80s, then I'd like to go back and do job interviews in the 80s.
Yeah,
that was. I mean, I know it's a movie. It has to be like easy
12
to do,
people in the room. They weren't each pre-assigned questions.
Right.
It was,
yeah.
Some random woman barges in the middle of the interview.
Apparently, you just have to be male and a pulse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they needed data entry back then.
And I was very happy for him that he got excited about, what was it, $137?
Yeah.
Which, of course, he thought was a lot. And I will stop here and say, Tom Hanks and the way he acted like a child this entire movie, I thought he did an outstanding job of being believable as a large child. Like a child in an adult body. All of his stuff about getting excited about the paycheck. He's like, I think it was like $137 or something like that. And he's like, oh my God. And he's so excited about it. My kids would be exactly the same way. Like, there are times where I might mention something like how much something is worth. And that we actually did this a lot. My daughter was asking a question. She's like, how much your car is worth? And I was like, well, why? She's like, well, because I've got $40 in my bank, and I want to know how close I am to saving up for a car when I get older. I'm like, well, she's like, am I halfway? Like, no. Like Daddy's car. We bought Daddy's car used, and it was a little over $10,000, and that's kind of on the lower end for a decent used car for how old it was. And she's like, $10,000. And I said, yeah, and some cars, as you get further up, you're talking $30,000. So kids have no concept of money. And the fact that he gets all excited while John Lovitz is over there, taxes. Sure do take a bite, don't they?
And then
And then, of course,
they all want it, and one's at like, we'll take
how would you like that?
And they go confer. Yeah. But did you see the? I don't know if you covered it or not, or are going to, but Penny Marshall, how she had him do some of that scenes, a lot of the scenes.
Wasn't she had the kid do it first?
The boy who plays the young Josh, they would not shoot the scene, but go through the scene with the kid, and then Tom Hanks would
do it. Yeah.
And then he would mimic his, kind of like pick up his reactions and little things. I guess they did for Forrest Gump too.
I have trouble seeing Robert De Niro do that.
Yeah.
I don't think Bobby's showing up on set for extra shots.
No.
It's funny. Granted, this is the adult in me.
Not at $6 million.
No. This is the adult in me asking the question, so maybe it's silly, and this was the 80s, but from what I remember, there are a lot of weird rules about working with kids on movies. Can you imagine how long this thing would take to shoot if you were waiting on being able to use the kid every time? Not that I'm saying... I think it shows in the movie. I think it's great.
Oh, yeah.
But...
Yeah. So he obviously working as a data entry clerk and working way too fast. Got to slow it down. Don't make us look bad. And so he literally runs into the company's owner, and then later on kind of meets him up again at the F.A.O. Schwartz toy store, and is kind of they're having the conversation about the different toys and how that doesn't make sense that this toy would be this way. It's more fun when it was like this, and I don't get why they changed it. And so you can kind of tell the owner of the toy company is just amazed that this adult man has all these insights into toys and what makes them work. And then they do that whole iconic scene where they're on the keyboard. And apparently I'd read somewhere that those keyboards were not long enough to have two people do the scene like that. They had to have it custom made. Because I guess when they did make those keyboards for real, they were like a third of that size. And they said, and they were very, they didn't have enough of the tones to be able to play the songs that they wanted to play. It was, what were they playing? They were playing Heart and Soul and Chopsticks. And that it just didn't have the tones that they needed for it, didn't have the music for it. So they actually had the guy who made that keyboard custom make them a giant one.
It does make sense because you kind of look at that and you go, wow. 2% of the population could even fit one of those in their house.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And 2% of that 2% would actually buy it. So who made this thing?
Right. Yeah.
When you realize that the original is only 6.5 feet long, you're like, oh, okay.
That makes sense.
Still like half my house, but that's
and then Josh, after that whole thing, Josh gets a promotion that allows him to be able to afford an apartment that would fit a keyboard.
This is true, and he still doesn't get one.
Roughly 18 feet.
He still didn't get one.
No,
I know.
He also it's other stuff, but he never went and got that keyboard.
So I'm going to stop right now in the middle of going through the movie plot and just ask. Here he is as a kid, and as kids, a lot of times we'd always say stuff like, I wish I was bigger so I could do this. I mean, that's the whole premise of this movie. if you were, and I asked my own kids this, and their answers were kind of dumb. So, no, they had good answers, but they weren't really thinking through the question very much. If you, as a kid, had the opportunity to get old and get big all of a sudden and have like money and have all this, what do you think the first thing? Think back to when you were a kid. What's the first thing you would have done if you were in his situation?
Yeah.
Be careful with what you're about to say, sir. I don't want to have to edit anything else out of this episode. What'd you say?
I'm dumb. No.
What'd be the first thing you'd do? I mean, they go hit up like some baseball games. They do some stuff around the city and all that.
Stuff like that, yeah. But first thing I would have bought, I probably would have gone out and bought every video game I'd ever wanted.
Okay.
Probably. Or, and they
I think I would have wanted to drive, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Sure.
I think car and driving right away first.
And when I say video game, I might mean like go out and buy the arcade cabinets and have a little lineup of them, not necessarily like. I think he had a couple.
Yeah. Wait,
that was cool.
Related to that, if you had an apartment like his, what would you stock it with?
Come on, a lot of what he had.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the trampoline, awesome.
Well, I know. I remember watching that as a kid and just thinking, no, that's pretty much perfect.
Yeah, that'll do.
You got a pinball machine, you got a trampoline, you got a
Pop a
Pepsi,
shot.
a Pepsi machine. You got.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Yeah, I'm in. Yeah. Can't think of anything he missed except maybe the keyboard.
Yeah.
Driving might have been.
Well, I think as a kid, you're thinking, man, I'd like to be. I think I wanted to get behind the wheel, and especially with him because he had that situation where he couldn't. But
right.
Then maybe, honestly, if I was that age and I couldn't go on some of those rides, for me, rides would have been another. Like I think of all the things you can't do.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, that's not fair. They get to do that. One's like staying up late.
Go see some R-rated movies.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But like if there was some like really cool movies you wanted, that were yeah, that's probably about it. Because I don't know if you'd be thinking with the mindset of a 12-year-old still yet, like the whole like dating or anything like that. But
he certainly wasn't.
No, I think you would definitely.
You mean like a sleepover?
You mean a sleepover?
Yeah,
okay, but I get to be on top.
Yeah. I think it would be more definitely along the lines of like that type of stuff, some adult stuff. But then you'd be like, after a little while, this is no big deal.
Right.
Like driving, you're like, God, I gotta drive somebody somewhere now.
I gotta do this
Jeez,
in
before
New
you're
York.
so excited.
In New York traffic.
I think back to like age 12, like roughly the age that he is in this movie. I think because the one thing that I wanted to do, I had some friends when I lived. They're the only ones I've ever had. But when I lived in England, I had some friends that their parents were taking them to the Guns N' Roses concert in Paris.
Nice.
And I want to say that was one of the last Guns N' Roses concerts that they did, at least like in a world tour type thing. And that one was kind of famous because I think Metallica might have been opening for them.
Wow.
And I remember my friends being like, hey, you know what, my parents will get you a ticket if you want to come with us. And I'm like, would you? Yeah. And then I asked my parents, they're like, no. Their parents take you to Paris to see Guns. First of all, we don't want you to see Guns N' Roses. Second of all, you're not going to Paris with your friends.
But everyone is doing it.
I know. And so, like, I think, and that was, I was roundabout.
Another group of people.
You did. Well, I think we've done Russian accents, we've done German accents, French.
German was all you, buddy.
I think the German was me. Yeah. Beetroot. I think that if I was that age and I wanted to, I think it would have been go to that Guns N' Roses concert.
Sure.
That would have been my one thing.
I think for me, I'm thinking too. I would just love to go out and play sports. Like just
like
pro
sports.
Like any sport. Like at this point, I just want to play sports because
Yeah.
like when you're a kid, you're limited by your size and ability and all that. Here, it's like I've got this body. Like now I can actually throw a ball farther or a baseball. Or how far can I hit this? Those are probably the three: the driving, the sports. Yep.
All right. Well, they continue on. He gets the very nice apartment, and you kind of progressively see him start to act a little bit more and more like an adult, especially after he gets involved with what's her name in the movie? Susan, Elizabeth Perkins in the movie. Do you have the one great scene where he shows up at the party in the white tuxedo?
Yes.
And he's trying all the food, and that I still remember that part with the little corn.
Little corns.
Yeah, that
where the escargot.
Yeah. And then they have the limousine ride, where he's eject your seat, and he's up out of the sunroof, and then obviously after he enjoys her company in other more adult ways, then he kind of at that point truly starts to become more of an adult. He starts to wear suits, and his office is a little bit less
comes in the morning,
decorated like a child. Comes in the morning,
coffee.
and all that stuff, and. So let me stop there as well. So you're not
asking the question, did they this time? You've accepted that they did?
Oh, I've accepted they did.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. Well, because he comes in with that stupid grin on his face.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying the last time we were all together, you and Jeff were on the side of, well, no, maybe not.
Well, that's Casablanca. This is the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Just saying, these two.
Different. No. These are the movies of the stupid grin. You've got Arnold Schwarzenegger with the dumb grin on his face.
Yes, that's true.
And then you've got Tom Hanks skipping into the office.
Yeah, there is a theme today, isn't there?
So I'm going to stop here as well, and I'm going to say, watching it this time, because it's been years since I've seen this movie. Watching it this time, and Sharon remembers watching it too when she was a kid. Watching it this time, we were a little bit bothered by the fact that we know he's supposed to be 12, 13. And he had sex with an older woman. And that, I don't know, that didn't bother us to the point where it ruined the movie for us, but at least we kind of thought about it that time. We're like,
yeah, I mean,
that's a little, it's a little dicey. And I don't know if that's just more of modern sensibilities of everything that's happened in the last year or so, and all the stuff with all the sexual harassment stuff and all that. I don't know if that is coloring our perception of the movie, where if we would have watched this 5 years ago, would that have bothered us as much, or I don't know. And maybe it's also having a child who is close to that age and being like, well, that's a little weird.
Yeah.
When I watched this as a kid, I don't even think about that part. And I wouldn't even thought of the question of did they or didn't they. I'm like, oh, she took her shirt off. And now it's the next morning.
Right.
Nothing happens in between that. So, no big deal. But yeah, this time it kind of might have weirded us out just a little bit. Maybe we were thinking too much about it. I don't know. Did that ever bother you guys?
Well, not until you said it.
See, now that I brought it up, it does.
Well, were they covering it? They don't actually, again, you could say that it's implied, but you can't confirm it.
True.
So is that they're out of, that's kind of up to you to decide whether or not that is or isn't. If it bothers you, then they didn't. If it doesn't bother you, then they did.
Okay.
And they leave it, that ambiguity there of not knowing. Doesn't she grab the... I'm trying to think what else. Do they actually... Yeah, I don't know. He's just chipper. He doesn't say anything.
I guess so.
Yeah, is it different because
so let me ask you
this way.
When you were a kid, did you think that he did? When you watched this as a kid?
Oh, when I watched this, I wouldn't have even known what they were implying.
So you didn't even get the on top joke like that joke?
No. Oh, no.
Okay. How old are you?
Well, last time I would have seen this movie, when we were watching this as...
I was 16.
So. When we were watching this as kids, I was probably... early middle school. So no, I was probably
I was
fifth grade.
7.
Yeah.
So
probably, and I haven't watched it much since then. So I'm guessing I was probably 5th or 6th grade the last time I watched it.
Okay, so yeah, you were.
So yeah. So I wasn't necessarily thinking that way.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say I didn't even think about it until you said it, because you're right. Was it?
And I don't want to lay a real heavy layer on top of a fun 80s movie, but
way to bring it down.
I know.
Jeez.
Was it?
This is the sequel called Big Disappointment.
Was it quote unquote acceptable because it was an older woman and not an older man? Is it?
Because if you flip it around, then you get all big.
That's what Sharon. That's what my wife Sharon. That's what she said too. She's like, if this was flipped around, we would automatically be like, well, that's creepy.
Huh.
But is that a double standard then that we're saying, yeah, he's a guy,
Right.
So I don't know. That was something that I had never thought of that before. But the two of us in watching this movie, we almost simultaneously turned to each other. We're like, does that seem weird to you this time around? Yeah, it kind of seems weird to me. So I don't know. It doesn't ruin my enjoyment of the movie, but it just kind of makes me question that particular part of it. And I was like, okay.
Yeah,
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. But it's interesting, and it's even more interesting that in all the stuff you look at, that never comes up.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever read anything where they talk too much about that.
There's not a lot on it because I was just looking to see.
Yeah.
If it was.
Well, I'm just here to manufacture controversy. That's
what a good host does.
That's
right?
my job. It's my job.
And like I said, they never can.
Harvey Weinstein. Should we talk about Harvey Weinstein?
Yeah, let's do that. And they even, God, it's funny. They even even hit you in the face with it one more time. Because she says, "What are you, 15?"
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, 13.
Yeah.
It makes that scene even worse.
I mean, it's kind of like her reaction is like, "Oh."
Oh, okay. I know what I just did.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know.
Huh.
But she didn't know that prior.
Right.
Right.
So that's why I don't think it comes off as creepy.
Right. I don't
because
anybody's at fault.
Had she known about the age thing before, then that comes off as totally
Right.
wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
The fact that it was more like this, and he probably was like, oh, just what do I, like very. I think the fact that if it plays off like that, yeah, I mean it's tough, but again, I think because it's presented in a way where it's not 100% confirmed, and that you don't see anything really, and the fact that
they do cut to a scene of a train going through a tunnel, but
slide roll.
that she didn't know his age. To him, he's a 30-something-year-old man, so therefore, it's one of those things that does it get a pass on the offensive meter, inappropriate meter.
Yeah.
It's honestly more interesting from a filmmaking perspective. Like, why were they even thinking about it when they chose it? Because he could have.
Penny Marshall directed it.
Well, exactly.
Right.
Right.
Roman Polanski.
Oh! Woody Allen. It could have just as easily been 15. Like that's the thing. Like for him to be 2 years older when they wrote the script.
She's older and his daughter. I don't know how that works in the movie, but
figure it out.
we're gonna work it in somehow.
Yeah, I don't know. That's yeah.
All right. Well, I just like to make up stuff that causes controversy. And
why not?
How do you feel about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom? Do you feel like that's part of a white savior narrative? I just thought I'd bring that back. I don't think we've had an argument over that in a while. So, all right. So they find out that, learns from Billy that the Zoltar machine is back. They have discovered where the machine is, so he knows that he can go back and make his wish to return back to being a kid again. And so he's got to make a decision as to whether he's going to stay as an adult or go back to being a kid. And, he kind of reveals everything to Susan, but she doesn't necessarily believe him. And who would? And given our conversation we had just now, she probably doesn't want to believe him and believe that he's 13 years old. And so then you have the scene where he kind of runs off after they're having their meeting about the interactive comic books, and he runs off in the middle of the meeting and goes to find the machine, makes his wish, and then she ends up driving him home, and that's when you see him walking down the street, and all of a sudden she turns back, he's the child again in the adult clothes and walks off, and she drives off, and then the last scene you get is him and Billy walking down the street again with their stickball bat and their bikes and singing their song, and roll credits.
And everything's back to normal.
Everything's back to normal.
Except he has had experiences.
He's had experiences. Mm-hmm.
That was much cleaner than it
All right. Am I going to have to edit this part too?
No, I've edited.
Edit the part where Bo says something in a creepy voice.
I've self-edited. We're good.
Okay.
We're good. Mm-hmm. We're good. Before we get too deep into the end of it, beetroot.
Beetroot, that's the safe word.
What's with the seaside?
That's the safe word, beetroot.
What's with the seaside amusement park that's like devoid of anything.
Amusement.
Yeah, there's the ocean's there. I get that part.
And Zoltar's there.
And Zoltar's there, and a couple other random machines, and then there's there's a dried up fountain they pull up on. It's like, I don't know.
Didn't it already move? Wasn't it a carnival coming through and it moved on? So
could be.
That's why I thought he had to track it down.
They left the Zoltar machine there.
But I feel like it's a seaside amusement park, so shouldn't there be like stuff? I don't know.
Seasonal. Depends what season.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. It was, I don't know. It's just weird. Like,
I took it like if you drive by Great America right now, it's not looking too nice.
yeah, it's also not open. Like the gate's not open. Like I don't know. It's just odd. It's one of those moments. One of the things you don't notice as a kid, but you're like, what is going on in this scene? You found an open plaza to park your Zoltar machine and shoot a movie. Okay, good. Get it now.
Hey, do what you gotta do.
Exactly.
All right. Anything else we want to say about Big?
Good
movie.
It's one of those movies where it's again,
I liked it until John brought up the questionable
now you just,
sex stuff.
I'm going to go back and see that scene and just see if it's how heavily implied it really is. Like I couldn't remember.
It's all about the coffee and the skipping.
Yeah. I think it's the stupid grin.
That too.
There's Arnold's grin in Twins, and yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, it's one of those movies that when it's on,
yeah,
you stop and you watch, especially if it's anywhere close to that scene where they're playing hard.
Oh, yeah.
If I have to wait 20 minutes just to get to that, I'll wait 20 minutes just to get to that spot.
Well, we were talking about. For some reason, we were talking about that like the next day, and so Nora asked me. She's like, "What are you guys talking about?" I said, "Oh, there's a movie that we watch. It's got, and actually, you would really like this one scene." So we pulled it up on YouTube and showed them that scene. And from that scene, they're like, "Well, I want to watch the rest of the movie." I said, "Well, yeah, we'll see. Maybe a little bit later, but wait till you're 13. Then you can do all kinds of stuff when you're 13."
But I think the movie has such a nice charm to it. I think it's perfectly cast with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Robert Loggia's character, just the way he finds him. Like initially, there's a fascination just from probably the business aspect of it, but then just that whole idea of kids and toys and being a kid and while he's an adult, it's not like the fact that he preserves the childlike quality while he's the adult, which is obviously the whole premise of the movie, but he does, and he fights against becoming some things of adult, and there's the friend to bounce that back off him. So there's such a great, I think, almost a sad feeling of of growing up and what do you lose? Because he grew up fast and he lost so much in a lot of ways, even though there was all these new. I think it's a deeper movie in many ways than you think, but.
How deep would you say?
I'm trying to be really good here. These two they're wearing the black, by the way. They're together, they're wearing the same matching outfit right now. I didn't get the memo.
Twins.
Yeah, twins. Hey, man, we're going with themes here.
Am I Vincent?
I'm close. Pat had. It was funny if Pat was here. Pat had the same thing on.
He probably
and I almost put the black shirt on today, and I would have had it.
Triplet. We could have been the triplets.
Yeah. Does that make Pat Eddie Murphy? Is that how that works?
Sure, why not?
But I think the casting's great. I think all the people in it. I think it's just it's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite movies. I like it just because that whole. This movie made me want to grow up and be a vice president at a toy company. Yeah,
I was under the impression
that job.
I was under the impression that this job is available.
Like I could do that. I could totally do that.
He shows us all the job we all wish really existed when we were kids. We're like, I want to grow up and be that guy.
And then the John Hurt guy,
John Hurt,
who just recently died. Yeah, he was such a good guy in that role. He was always great in that role. Just
schmuck.
Yeah, just so well. So I mean, perfectly cast, perfectly directed. I think it's like I said, the only thing now that I could say negative is what just John brought up.
Yeah, I just dropped a bomb on everybody.
Well,
great.
Hey, that's what I'm
You mentioned great directing, great pedigree too. I think I'm trying to dig it up here. I think Barry Sonnenfeld is the DP.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just starting out with names that now are like, oh, it's a Sonnenfeld. Okay, Sonnenfeld's the DP. Penny Marshall directed. Tom Hanks. I mean, that's some star power when you think about it, and it shows. It's great. Like
And he doesn't go over the top as a kid, and he doesn't go
right
to it literally is like right in there where you could see that kid being in there, just perfect. Like, there was the right tone.
I think the only
because he didn't get too kid-like and
Right,
silly,
right.
and there was a little bit of confusion and just like a little bit of like trying to figure stuff out, and like he's thrown in this whole new adult world, and he knows who he is, but he doesn't realize everybody else sees him a certain way. So having to play that, there's a fine line to play that role, and I think that's one of. I think that I don't know. I'm trying to think what was before that for Tom Hanks, but I think that was honestly
Dragnet.
He was working on Dragnet. That's why.
But what other real serious role? Even though that wasn't serious, but there's some darn serious parts in there that he had to play, which showed his range. I think from Bosom Buddies and everything else. Right. I want to say
he was working on Punchline and Dragnet at the time.
At the time, but before that, I don't know if there was much that was I think he was.
Yeah,
because the '80s was Bosom Buddies and all that stuff, and that was silly, actually almost annoying. Tom Hanks.
Those episodes of Family Ties.
Yep. Again.
Otherwise, then it's Splash.
Splash. Okay.
And Bachelor Party. Money Pit.
Money Pit was comedy.
Dragnet. And then right after this, Punchline. Right after then it's Big. Then Punchline. Then The Burbs. Then Turner and Hooch. Joe versus
Burbs.
Volcano. No.
I think though, even though this was. I guess it's still classified as a comedy. It still has enough, I think, dramatic elements.
Oh yeah, it's got a lot of heart to it. It's got a lot of
that. It showed his range where he could like. It's kind of like when what made Robin Williams be able to do both. Like there's a few. Tom Hanks is one of those few people that's like that. You know, and Jerry Lewis actually was able to do it, and in which. I don't know if that was until much later, though, because even though like Nutty Professor back then had a very serious character in it, and then he had this Nutty Professor, obviously, it wasn't until like when he did the one with wasn't Robert De Niro? Wait, the Jerry Lewis one, which was King Comedy.
Oh, yeah.
Which was a serious role. Like it was, and the people were like, "Wow, this is not silly." You know, and he won, I think, an Academy Award nomination for that. But I'm like, there's few people who can kind of cross that line so well, you know. And Tom Hanks and Robin Williams are the two that come to mind that do that like phenomenally. Like,
and I almost feel like he didn't really get into more serious roles until you get to like Philadelphia,
which surprises me that it was so many more silly ones.
It's like
after this.
5 years later, because Philadelphia was '93. Then you had Forrest Gump '94. Then you had Apollo 13 in '95. And then you start to have more stuff like Saving Private Ryan, The Green Mile, Castaway, Road to Perdition, Catch Me If You Can. You know, then you start to get into more of his stuff.
Well, you know what it sounds like.
He's done lately, but
I don't claim to be a Tom Hanks biographer, but you know what that reads like? That reads like the resume of a man who.
I had fun. Now I want an Oscar.
I had fun. I made some money. Now I can make the movies I want to make, not the movies I have to make.
Yeah.
I got typecast early because I do this well, but I want to make these serious movies. And look here, yes, I can.
Yeah,
but he didn't.
And there were elements of that showed other people maybe trust that. Where before, no, you're just typecast as zany. You know, like I always wonder, like, could Will Ferrell? You know, Bill Murray was able to do that with Razor's Edge and some of those movies that like he was able to kind of bust out of there, and he's done even ones more recently. So it is interesting to see. You know,
you mentioned Will Ferrell. Like he's had a couple. Will Ferrell's had a couple of. He had that Stranger Than Fiction one, which is still kind of a comedy, and then I feel like he did one called Everything Must Go.
Yes,
yeah.
Which
and I feel like
I saw parts of it on there,
more of a serious
but it wasn't
one,
a big hit.
Yeah.
So is it people don't see him as more than that?
Right.
Are they not sold by the performance?
Right.
That's what I'm saying is like for I would have to look up the filmography of him too, but for Robin Williams, I think it was Dead Poets Society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that was the first real serious role that he had. I'm not sure, there might be something else, but you know, and to me it's a similar crossroads for these two movies. You know, he played a teacher and he played the serious, and it's very obviously the ending is very, very heavy.
Right.
But he gets to also be funny in it.
Right.
And same thing with him, he gets to be funny in this, which he's good at, which they know he could do.
Mm-hmm.
But then he also gets to show kind of those more serious moments.
Right.
And I think it's just a bit of crossroad movie for him.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Well, and as Jeff and I mentioned, I think a couple episodes ago, that he's been cast to play Mr. Rogers. in the Mr. Rogers movie too. So I don't remember when that one's coming out. I think it's coming out maybe like 2019, 2020, based on the biography of the. I think there was a journalist who spent like a year kind of getting to know Mr. Rogers and wanting to write a biography on him. Sharon's read the book. It's a really good book. I think it's called something like "I'm Proud of You" or something like that. So the movie's going to be called "You Are My Friend." And Tom Hanks is the one that's playing Fred Rogers.
Is that going to be late Fred Rogers? Or are they going to try to have him play young Fred
I don't know.
Rogers?
I think later. Right.
If they do an older one, that's going to be definitely possible.
Yeah.
Maybe flashbacks and have somebody else play him when he's young. I don't know.
Tom Hanks do the voiceover maybe, and then I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for our Big Twins episode.
Hey guys, it's Pat calling. Sorry I can't make the podcast this week, but dude, fired up for these two movies. First off, Big. This was probably, I remember seeing this movie when it came out. What a lot of fun it was. What a cool concept, and the idea of, you know, a kid in an adult body, and I know other movies have done it, but this movie was a lot. The first movie I remember watching Tom Hanks in, that was, for me, that was who Tom Hanks was, this character. And so everything else I compared to that, I thought he nailed it. I thought the way that he did all the kid things, from, you know, standing on the back of the truck, the loading dock, there's a loading lift on the back of the truck, to, you know, sitting in the limo and the gal's trying to talk to him, and all of a sudden he's like, "Ejection seat!" and jumps out the top. The way Tom Hanks captured that was just awesome. You know, I can't quite pick a favorite scene, because I think I started listing them off right there, but just the way Tom Hanks brought that idea of a kid stuck in the adult world to life. I like how they kind of got into the stuffed shirt kind of adult, you know, world of business, and he brought a breath of fresh air. I thought that was a very cool twist to the story. Just a lot of fun. I know that this might even come up in the podcast, but I thought that game that he played was really cool, and I always wanted to buy it, and then I found out that it was made just for the movie, but I always thought that video game was cool. And, a lot of fun. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Big, but yeah, I saw it when it first came out, and what a great story. Family friendly, and a lot of fun. Pat calling again with the review for Twins. Yeah, this is another one that I saw when it first came out, and again, for me, this, I think, was the first Arnold Schwarzenegger movie I saw, and was one of the first that had Danny DeVito in it. And just like I said with Tom Hanks, I mean, this, for me, summed up who Danny DeVito and who Arnold Schwarzenegger were. I mean, they were, that was the image burned in my mind as a kid. And again, I loved it. I think I said this to John earlier. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger movies are like my speed. I think Pat Canigallo really can't go wrong with one. Great movie. Fun story. It was light. It didn't ask you to do too much other than just sit back and enjoy it. I thought the way Arnold Schwarzenegger played kind of the super intelligent, super talented, almost like a real life superhero kind of guy, but a little bit naive and clueless. Danny DeVito was at his devious best with some of those looks where his eyes just seem to get all like hollowed out, and he looks like he's staring right through you. Just so fun to watch. And the way that the two were able to play off of each other. I mean, I find myself saying this is what I think of when I think of an 80s movie. And I think it comes down to Arnold Schwarzenegger movies are what I think of when I think of 80s movies. The way the guys were able to play off each other, the way Arnold was sitting there, and every time that, like, you know, they tried to grab the briefcase, and I wasn't his enemy. The sidewalk was his enemy. You better get that checked out. You forgot the third rule in a crisis situation. Just tons of fun to watch. The characters were great, and the story was great. I really enjoyed the whole thing all the way through. So yeah, a lot of fun movies this time around. These were pretty cool, and like I said, I enjoyed them when I was a kid, and I always get sucked in whenever they come on the screen. Favorite scene? I'd have a hard time picking a favorite scene just because it was fun all the way through. So I can't wait to hear what you guys think of the movie, and we'll be hopefully talking to you real soon.
So later this month, and I have no clue when because I still have not seen it because I'm a horrible human being, would like to do a Black Panther show at some point. Have you seen Black Panther?
I have.
You have. Okay,
awesome.
I'm a horrible person. So at some point, we do a Black Panther episode. And then to finish off our big and small month, we're going to be doing Willow and Child's Play together, which I've already talked to Pat. And I had never seen Child's Play before. I had never watched it all the way through.
Wow.
And I was watching it yesterday, and I texted Pat and I said, Pat, you're going to have problems with this one.
Yeah, you will.
This is everything Pat hates.
I haven't seen... God,
it's a horror movie.
Years.
With a doll.
Yeah.
And it comes after the kid.
Yeah.
And that's like everything that Pat can't stand.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think if there was at some point where they completely trashed a motorcycle, that would have just... That would have done it.
That would have just sent him over. He's done.
That's the anti-Pat trifecta.
I'm out.
You know, scary movie, come after kids and trash a motorcycle. And then later in the month, I think we're going to try to also throw in because this came out in 1988, there were 2 Batman comic books that were pretty famous in 1988 that came out. One was called Batman the Killing Joke, and the other one was called Batman A Death in the Family, which apparently this was the year that they decided to just beat the crap out of Batman psychologically by paralyzing Batgirl and killing Robin. So it was a fun year for Batman.
That's a rough one.
So I think later this month we're going to do an episode on that one. And then if you're looking ahead to April, if you want to get ahead, April is our Let's Get Weird month.
Now we're getting weird.
Oh, yeah, we're getting weird in April. Well, April was kind of the month where I was like, I have a bunch of movies that I have no clue what category to put them in. So we're just going to make a catch-all month, and that's called April. So in April, we're going to be doing The Last Temptation of Christ, along with Dead Ringers. I'm going to figure out how those two to go together.
Yeah, we'll work that out.
And then hopefully we'll be able to do a Ready Player One.
Yeah.
Because it will be out by then. And then Return of the Killer Tomatoes and Tapeheads.
Yeah. You gotta love Return of the Killer Tomatoes. I know nothing about Tapeheads, but
no, I don't either.
Killer Tomatoes, I'm in.
Yeah.
Tapeheads, I don't know that Tapeheads did very well. It's I think it's kind of a cult movie. It's
sounds like one.
Yeah, it's John Cusack and why am I blanking out his name? Tim Robbins.
Oh wow! Yeah. Okay, yeah.
So it's kind of it's a weird little movie about them kind of like following around a rock band that they like.
Well, that doesn't. I mean, we're talking about John Cusack,
Right.
something called Tapeheads.
Right.
I'm guessing there's a cassette tape or two involved.
Oh, probably. Yeah. So that'll be our Let's Get Weird month. So if you're looking ahead to our Let's Get Weird month and you want to join us in that, feel free. Last Temptation of Christ, Dead Ringers, Ready Player One, Return of the Killer Tomatoes, and Tapeheads will be the month of April for our show. So in the meantime, if you want to find a way to get in touch with us, you can go to 30podcast.com. You can listen to the show there. You can subscribe on iTunes, Google Play. We're in a lot of other different places. There you can also get to our voicemail line that is on the website there as well. You can talk to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I'm sure some other social media thing will come out at some point.
Stitcher.
Stack our name on that one too. And so in the meantime, thank you, Bo, and thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, John.
It's been a while since you've been here.
I know.
I was glad you were able to be here.
I know. So am I.
Beetroot.
Beetroot. Be excellent to each other and go watch some good movies.